Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Check Me. There's a lot we got to cover when it comes to the NFL draft, but the very first thing I want to talk about is the top picks. I think the best five picks in the draft collectively all together. Um, so let's just kind of go down the list. I'm going to talk about the first five picks. I think the very first best pick in the draft, team that got it right, choosing the right quarterback, were the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers are looking to beef up their roster, having a guy who can kind of make some plays on his own, make some plays without having to rely on receivers or the best lineman, getting Bryce Young. Bryce Young, if you watched him all year, he's been exceptional. He's made the right decision. He made the right decision at Alabama when it was time to make the right decision. Panthers want to build around a guy who can, who not only has a good head on the shoulders, who's a leader, who understands discipline, understands hard work, and getting a guy from Alabama, Sabinville, and then coming to the Carolina Panthers, I think it's a great way to build a franchise, pretty personally build a franchise around him. I'm not worried about his height or anything. If I had to say one thing that Bryce Young needs to work on is just being good all the time and just not making those one-off mistakes. When I think about him, how he played at Alabama, it wasn't that he wasn't good. It was just sometimes he fall asleep sometimes in the game and trust his arm a little bit too much, or fall asleep in the game a little bit. Not making huge monumental mistakes, but sometimes he will fall asleep. I personally felt in the game. What I mean by that is a lot of stalled out drives, back-to-back stalled out drives. Forcing throws with his arms, trying to be too creative sometimes. But I think he'll get the right rhythm when he gets to the NFL. And NFL is push one foot in the dirt and go. So good pick by the Panthers. I'm not being biased towards the Alabama Crimson Tide, but Will Anderson Jr. He could have easily went number 2, number 1 in the draft. But picking up a generational defense end like Will Anderson, a guy who's not only a leader but also knows how to create plays, knows how to sacrifice to create plays as well too, because he did a lot of that this year. Taking on double teams, running multiple stunts to clog things up so it's set other guys free, but also a guy who can. If you need to him, you can send him in pass coverage. Having a versatile DN right now is, like Will Anderson, a guy, who can come in and immediately make a huge impact. I think it's a great pick. Houston picked him up. Beefing up the defense or defensive line is the most important thing you can do in the draft. No matter what, you can't go wrong with getting depth on defensive line and offensive line. So I think it's a great pick by the Houston Texans. Next, once again, Philly's own, who could have easily went number 1 in the draft, Jalen Carter. I thought it was a great pickup for us. Once again, we're going Georgia. We picked up Nolan Smith. But beefing up the interior line is going to be important. Think about rotation. Think about the rotation that we can get from this. They're comparing him to Fletcher Cox, and he's playing with Fletcher Cox. So now you have him, Jordan Davis. You have multiple guys that are in that defense that can just muster things up. You can rotate guys depending on who we resign and who we don't resign and who we pick up during the season. I think the Eagles put the blueprint of success when it comes to defense, and that's having guys who can rotate, who are willing to sacrifice, who aren't willing to be a hero, who are okay with playing rotation, who know the game, who can make plays. That's what they're getting with Jalen Carter, a guy who can come in this rotation and make an immediate impact, playing alongside Jordan Davis he did 2 years ago. The next pick, I think he wasn't the first cornerback picked in the draft, but the Patriots getting Christian Gonzalez. Now, do I think he's the best cornerback in the draft? No, but what I think he is the best player for that scheme. You're looking at a guy who has great ball skills, some great talent. He's great off corner, but he can play press as well too. This is something that Bill Belichick does like. Even though he didn't have any picks in back-to-back years, 2021, he can track the ball. He picked off 4 passes this past year. But I really like the fact that he's a smart corner, and with Jackson and then Gonzalez, a guy who can come and make an impact immediately, maybe playing some nickel, playing some corner, depending on how Belichick wants to use him. I think it's a great pickup, a great guy, smart guy for his scheme. So Christian Gonzalez, I didn't expect him to go this late at 17. I think they pulled the Patriots pull the trigger on him to get a good defensive guy, to help with play alongside with Jonathan Jones. Jack Jones can move to the nickel role as well too. So you have now a sizey corner that can play in Belichick, can play in Belichick's scheme, to make some plays. Now, since I'm a receiver, I'm a big receiver guy. I think this is a steal of the draft. Should have been the first receiver taken, but he wasn't. Jordan Addison. This guy who could run the route tree. He's a vertical threat. He's a smart offense route runner. He completely tore up the conference when he was at Pittsburgh. He was the Blinkenhoff Award winner, best receiver in football, and he came to USC. Balanced some injuries, but he played along some guys who were dogs. But Minnesota really got a steal with this one, a 26th pick with Jordan Addison. You talk about replacing Thaleen. Now you got Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson to deal with on Sunday. Great route runners, guys who can run no matter, who are versatile, can run the route tree. He can play the slot. A guy, he's a chameleon. You can put him anywhere, he can make plays. So I think it was a great pickup for Minnesota. The only problem is you have Kirk Cousins at quarterback, so you can't expect much out of him. But if I had to give my top 5 picks, those are my top five picks. As far as in the draft, best picks in the draft. Now, who is the steal in the draft? Now, this may sound crazy, but I personally feel that Jamar Gibbs at the 12th pick is a great pick in the draft. You're talking about having an explosive offense. You have DeAndre, so you lost Jamal Williams. Right, but now you have a guy, Jamar Gibbs, who can play everywhere. A downhill runner, he's very compact. He can catch the ball at the backfield. He'll be able to pretty much mesh well in that Detroit Lions offense. So, you have a young, talented core, in Detroit with Amar St. Brown, Jameson Williams. Whenever he comes back from his betting saga, you have Jamar Gibbs. Guys that can grow together, I think are going to be what's going to help Detroit. But I think this is a steal. I think that a lot of people may have not watched him play. They watched Bryce Young and didn't see how Jamar Gibbs pretty much kind of won Alabama a couple past games this past year. They're comparing him to Tony Pollard. I see that. He's a little bit more elusive than Tony Pollard, a little bit more of a utility player than Tony Pollard. I like Alvin Kamara, very shifty, can break tackles. He can go vertical if he needs the vertical, but he also is a guy who's elusive and can go side to side if he needs and go side to side. So if you need tough 3 yards, you can give it to Gibbs. He can get tough 3 yards. Not to mention he completely dominated when he was at Georgia Tech. So I think that was the biggest steal of the draft, the first round, and we'll see what happens in the second round.